And we're live. Alright, hello there and welcome. My name is Santi and I'm excited to make this video where I'm going to be comparing Obsidian versus Notion. I'm going to be showing you a couple of things that I got in each, but mostly it's going to be this cool presentation that I made for you right here, and we're going to be switching between my face and my screen. So I hope you enjoy this. Now, the only thing I can't really offer you is a very unbiased decision towards one or the other. I create a course on Obsidian right now, so I'm creating that course on Obsidian, meaning that I'm definitely going to be leaning towards Obsidian a little bit more, mostly because it's the app that I know the most about. Although I must say there's tons of reasons why I still really like Notion and why I use it for a lot of things. But this is mostly for you if you are a bit undecided on which one you should switch for, whether you need both, and all that kind of stuff. So with that said, we're gonna cover a couple of different points and I'm gonna be talking about each one of them, okay? So first, when it comes to owning your own data, which in my situation, in my case, my personality and the way I want to create my work, that is extremely valuable and extremely important. So I'm definitely gonna be a bit more biased towards the option that gives me better capabilities to make my nodes future-proof, and for that, Obsidian is excellent, okay? The reason why it's so good is because Obsidian works in plain text files. Now, if you're not familiar with what that means, a plain text file is just a way in which you can take a note, and this note is gonna be put in a format that is gonna be as simple as possible, right? Obsidian uses Markdown, which is the extension .md, opposed to if you were to compare it to a Word document, for instance, that is .doc or docs. Those files are gonna be, it's gonna be owned by Microsoft in a way. So whatever the way that a doc file is open is gonna be read by Microsoft Word, the application. And if you were to see the code of what a Microsoft Word document looks like inside, you'll see a lot of cluttered code. Like there's so much code that most of it is useless, right? If you compare that to a plain text file like Markdown, the one that Obsidian uses, .md, it's gonna be only text, just the text you write, and that's it. Of course, you can have links to images and all this useful stuff, and if you use Obsidian, you're gonna be able to access a lot more advanced plugins and useful features inside of Obsidian. So of course, Obsidian is excellent for this, and it wins on this category. Notion is not so good, and that is because mostly it's cloud-based. And here's one advantage I'm going to be talking in a second, which allows you to export to Markdown. But if we talk about what cloud-based means, is literally the fact that Notion is fully hosted in the cloud, right? Meaning that it's not like you have access to all your data. It's not like all your nodes are in a storage folder somewhere in your files. It's that all your files are stored in Notion servers, and a server is nothing more than just a big hard drive, right? Or just the place where you store your information, right? So all of your nodes, whatever you take in Notion, is going to be stored in Notion's cloud, right? You are technically the owner of those nodes, but you don't have the data with you, meaning you really rely on Notion to take care of your data, right? And I honestly think it's a good company, and I think it's been doing things really good. And the way they've been communicating with their audience and their users has been pretty transparent, and they're kind of clear about how they store your information, what happens if you lose something, how you can contact them if you need to retrieve something, and they, most cases, help people to retrieve their information, but still there's a risk because it's not up to you to look after your files, it's up to the company, right? Now, the other point that I had in here is exporting to Markdown, right? So what I mean by this is just that Notion gives you the ability to take your notes and export them to Markdown, which is the file type that Obsidian uses, plain text file, right? But the thing is that this is kind of like something they do in order for you to not feel trapped in Notion, right? Because if you have the ability to export your notes out of Notion, you feel less trapped, and it's going to be less of a barrier for you to start using Notion. But at the end of the day, because Notion is so specific about the way it manages its information and databases, which we're going to talk about in a second, Notion nodes only work in Notion. So that's the thing. Even if you export all your Markdown nodes, the organization that you build in Notion is highly dependent on Notion itself. Meaning that yes, you could take your nodes out of there, But in order for you to be able to use them, you would have to kind of start from scratch the whole organization structure, opposed to Obsidian, where because it's plain text file and it's very simple, and depending on the workflow that you use to create your notes, it's going to be a lot easier to use them in other apps in case Obsidian stops existing. Whereas if Notion ends as a company, you're kind of screwed. Not fully, because you can still export things, but using everything you build in Notion in another app is simply not going to work as well, because you build your whole workflow based on how Notion works, right? All right, so next point. And by the way, I'm pretty sure you're wondering how I made this whole mind map thing. And that is one of the advantages of Obsidian. It comes with a lot of plugins and community plugins, meaning that people can create awesome features like this, and that's what I'm using. So it's inside of Obsidian, but it's a community plugin. If you want a whole video on how to make this kind of stuff, let me know. Cool. So with that said, we're gonna move to capability and features, all right? So when it comes to Notion, let's start with Notion here. Notion is highly flexible and it has amazing features. When it comes to flexibility, it's extremely flexible and powerful for collaboration. We're gonna talk about that in a second, but what I want to focus right now is its great features such as tables or databases. And to show you what I mean, I'm gonna actually have Notion here open. This is kind of like a customized version of Notion with different colors that I managed to do. Again, if this is something you're interested in, let me know. I can make a tutorial on this because it's really, really cool. And yeah, your Notion is not gonna look like this by default, but this is like an additional feature you can add to Notion, that downloaded app, that is really cool. Just a bit of a side note. Cool, so in Notion, as you can see, there's these tables. This is I call it the arena. It's kind of like the place where the actions happen in the day. Thinking of, Roman and Greek analogies for comparing on what your work is like. My work is my arena, right? And in here, I have my capture notes. No, sorry, not notes. These are actually tasks. This is how I manage my whole task management system, right? So in here, I have captured tasks, which are things that I just capture, and they go in line. And in line is all the things that I still need to do, basically a to-do list. And then what's really cool is that I can have things for today. Right now, I'm not sure if I have anything loaded in here yet. Okay, yeah, get this book, upcoming. And what's really cool is that I can have themes, which is the way I describe how to organize things in different types of projects. So in here, I have things I do for Obsidian, how many tasks I've done in a percentage bar, how many tasks I have left. And here I have Blender, which is a software that I'm learning for 3D, a film that I'm producing, books that I'm reading or want to read, and all that kind of stuff. And the reason why I tell you all of this is because all of this is based on just one simple database or table. Databases are just these amazing features in Notion where you can just filter through things. You can add tons of different filter views, and all of these different toggles that you see, they're all one same table with different views. And that is a feature that Obsidian currently doesn't offer. It's something that makes Notion super special and super unique. In short, in like long story short, tables and databases, the same thing. They're the reason why I use Notion, because you can express all types of things in tables. You can have filter views, and it's just amazing. Honestly, I truly wish Obsidian offered something like this, and I hope it does one day. There's a couple of plugins that I've seen attempting something like this, especially one called Query to Tables, if I'm not wrong. And that one's amazing, but I can't wait for it to grow so that we can do things like this in Obsidian, right? So with that said, the tables or databases in Notion are amazing. Now, when it comes to the flexibility, yes, like these tables is what makes Notion extremely flexible and good for collaboration. We're gonna go back into the topic of collaboration in a couple of the next few points. But with that, when it comes to features and capability, I think Notion could be a winner. But yeah, let me tell you what's up with Obsidian. So in Obsidian, what I think is the biggest plus about this whole thing is the plugins, which allow for major customization, right? Because Obsidian is a very simple piece of software. And that's the thing, Obsidian is pretty simple to kind of get started and understand, but really making the most of it, it's kind of a bit more complicated, and there's a lot of extended functionality. So there's the core plugins, which are the plugins that come with Obsidian, and then there's the community plugins, which is everything that other creators share with the community in order to expand Obsidian's functionalities. And that's where I think it shines. Honestly, I use so many plugins in Obsidian. If I were to just show you, just so that you have an idea, here I have my community plugins, and I have quite a few, if not almost all of them. And yeah, this is just for you to have a bit of an idea of how many plugins I use. I use a lot of them, and it's just amazing. It makes Obsidian so much more powerful. And yeah, I really love it. So that's why it's so hard for me to decide whether Notion or Obsidian is better with features. I definitely think Obsidian wins in the sense of being able to be more customizable, especially because Notion hasn't released the API, which is just something that that a software can have in order for people to create plugins or create integrations with other apps. So Notion's still developing that, but when it does, I think it's also going to be powerful. So it's hard to know which one wins in this, right? So with that said, we can go to our next point, which is going to be task management, which we already touched on. So Notion is just excellent. Like I showed you, it just has all these amazing features. If we go back to it, like that's the idea. I implement GTD, getting things done, workflow kind of thing, where everything is a list. You could also do things based on date, if that's kind of like the workflow you're more familiar with or that you enjoy more. But I have this GTD, getting things done system, where everything is just a list, and it's just incredible, right? So task management in Obsidian, I think it could be potentially good. And I say this because currently, there's checklists, there's little things you can do in Obsidian here and there. If I show you actually, all right, so here in Obsidian, if I just zoom into this, there's a couple of useful things, and let me just turn on, my shortcut keys. There you go, so that you can see what I press. If you write this, hyphen, opening bracket, let me just zoom in a bit more, and closing bracket, this is a task, right? And now what's cool is that you can do, in order to not have to write all of this, you can also just do Control Enter or Command Enter, and here you have a task, right? And what's really cool is that if you do Control Enter again, you can check off the task, right? And if we were to do this in preview mode, so let me just show you in preview mode, this is the same note, it's just in edit mode and in another task. Let me just do that. Okay. And this is just preview mode, meaning that now if I check this off in here, you can see that it also does a next in there. The same thing works the other way around. If I check that off, it's gonna check this off in here as well. So it's really cool, and this is a very basic functionality. But what I see emerging a bit more in the community is people creating plugins to extend the functionality of how task management works in Obsidian, because it's not a core functionality of Obsidian. Obsidian is really not necessarily made for task management, which I think is a really important thing for knowledge management, project management app. Obsidian is more about knowledge. It's about taking notes. But if it had the functionality, or if it could be added through community plugins to be better at task management, it's something that I might consider in the future to move from Notion into Obsidian. But for now, Notion is just so much better for task management, and that's the reason why I use it. So let's go back to our nice graph mind map thing. All right, so yeah, that's basically the idea. I think Obsidian could be potentially good for task management. So far, it's kind of tricky to get a nice workflow going. But yeah, this is something I want to explore, and I actually want to make videos, exploring potential plugins that will allow me to do the kind of task management system that I like, similar to the one that I have in Notion. So this is a maybe. This is not conclusive. In the past, I did say like, no, Obsidian doesn't work for task management. But I'm having an open mind about it, and hopefully if it does, I'm definitely gonna teach it, because I think it could be potentially really good. All right, so yeah, that's about it. So Notion excellent, and Obsidian potentially good. Now when it comes to collaboration, which is something I briefly mentioned about Notion, of course Notion in my opinion is excellent, and Obsidian is not so good yet. Okay, the reason why I say Obsidian is not so good yet is mostly because plain text files are highly versatile. That's a word, right? So they're very versatile, and you can definitely share them through email or invite someone to wherever you store them. For instance, I store them in Dropbox. So if you share the whole Dropbox vault, as Obsidian calls a big folder where everything is in, if you share that, it's going to be highly compatible. And if someone else is using Obsidian as well, like whoever you want to collaborate with, it's going to be great. It's going to work, right? And the reason why I think it's not so good yet is mostly because is not as easy as Notion. With Notion, you can just share, you can invite people to collaborate, and it's extremely easy. Whereas with Obsidian, you either need to have someone who's a bit more tech savvy, who could use something like GitHub, which would be an amazing way to collaborate, but it's definitely not for beginners, I don't think. It's more for programmers and people advanced. And then, yeah, you could also share an Obsidian Vault through Dropbox, which is kind of like a bit of a longer process. I don't know. I mean, it's still not that bad. But I think because Obsidian has a feature, well, something that you can buy called Obsidian Sync, if that progresses and is aimed towards collaboration, I think it could be good. I think it could be really good. But I gotta give this point of collaboration to Notion because it's just excellent. The way Notion works is really that you can have like your notes or your wiki or a personal wiki or a company wiki, and you can share it with many, like either as guest members or team members, which they're gonna be able to have more privileges in the particular note or workplace that you're doing, and they're gonna be able to write comments or edit all types of things. Even as a guest, which is a bit of a cheaper version, you could do a lot of things. That's what I use, how I use it, but we're gonna talk more about that in the pricing, right? So yeah, that's just kind of my ideas on collaboration. Now, when it comes to note taking, this one is where I have a bit of stronger beliefs and people are definitely gonna disagree with me, but I'm gonna say it either way. So when it comes to note taking, I think Notion is up to you, but maybe not. And Obsidian is just excellent. Right, so what I mean by this, and I don't want to offend people that use Notion purely, because definitely this video is going to attract people that use Obsidian, people that are using Notion, and even some people that are just trying to decide, right? So what I think about Notion is that because of the fact that it is not great, not so good with owning your data, is not that future proof, meaning that if you ever, like I said previously, if you want to move out of Notion, everything is kind of entrapped in your Notion notes. Yes, you can export it, but because your whole workflow was based on maybe the databases that Notion uses, or the whole workflow of how Notion organizes information, I think that's very important. And I think the fact that if you want to take notes that are gonna be with you for the next 50 years or hopefully until your last day, I think it's good to have a system, an app, a piece of software that is gonna allow you to own your notes for as long as you can, right? So that's why I say Obsidian is excellent and Notion is up to you. I've seen people trusting Notion, being like, yeah, Notion is never gonna go away, it's gonna last forever, but nothing lasts forever, right? And that's just a concept in life that we have to get used to. That's what this tattoo is for. Everything comes to an end, and that's something I always keep in mind for everything I do. And with Notion, because it won't last forever, because someday it's going to be replaced by another company or it's just going to collapse, it's an inevitable truth of business in general and life. I don't think it's that great to keep notes that you want to keep for a long term in Notion. I think for task management, because a task is really based on like, okay, today I write a task that I want to check off tomorrow, right? In 50 years, I don't really care about that, so I'm willing to lose my old tasks, but my notes, the knowledge that I accumulate throughout years, that is very important to me. And that's what I think Obsidian is excellent for. So if I were to just, show you what I'm talking about, this right here is my Obsidian Publish vault. So I'm going to be talking about that in a second when I go to the topic of pricing, because Obsidian offers this additional kind of feature or service where you can publish your notes, kind of like a website, but I don't really treat it as a website. Some people have asked me like, could this replace a website? And I say like, it's more about just sharing your notes with others or for you to be able to access them from anywhere. That's more of what I use it for. I mean, I like people seeing how to create an advanced knowledge management system with Obsidian. But it's also for me to be able to just, I'm in my phone and I'm talking to someone and I say like, yeah, there was this really cool idea that I've heard about. And instead of having to Google the whole thing, I have it in my notes. And I can just go to my URL, which right now is not customized, but I'm going to definitely customize it to my own website. But in here, I have all my notes. And as you can see, I have all types of different notes where I talk about particular concepts. I could even search my notes, which is really awesome. I could follow this graph view that is amazing. And yeah, that way I can just like see all the connections that my notes create. And yeah, granted, like I did say how, I want to keep my notes future-proof so that I can access them in many years. Like this vault, this Obsidian Publish is not something that I might have forever, especially if Obsidian, stops existing as a company. But the fact that all of these nodes are simple plain text file that I own and that I can use, I actually use many other software in order to access these nodes and even customize things or write in them. I know that I'm not trapped in Obsidian, and that feels really, really good. And that encourages me to use Obsidian a lot more and to trust Obsidian. So something like this is really the reason why I really, really like Obsidian for note taking, right? So with that, we're gonna go to the next point, and that is gonna be price. So yeah, for this, it'd be better if I show you the actual sale page of each one. So, we got in Notion, we got free and paid options, and Obsidian is practically free. Now let me show you exactly what I mean by that by opening the websites. So if we go to the landing page of Obsidian, here you can see pricing, and the whole website is really directed towards explaining that this is something you can keep forever, like you read in the main page, right? A second brain for you forever, meaning that you own your notes. They really emphasize on that, and I think it's the best part of Obsidian. Now, for personal, it's completely free, and that's how I've used it for the most part. And then there's something called the catalyst. This is completely optional, and the way it works is by doing kind of like a one-time payment thing, you can really just support the development of Obsidian. And if you believe in Obsidian and you would like it to grow, I highly encourage you to do this. Now, what it gives you is it gives you a badge in the community, which is quite cool. It's like an insider, a little sticker in the forum. The forum is great. I'm going to talk about that after the pricing. But yeah, so this allows you to have early access to new updates of Obsidian, which is amazing and super helpful and really cool. If you really like being on like the latest version of everything, like that's something I enjoy. It's not mandatory. Again, it's something that you can do to support the team, because Obsidian currently right now is made by 2 people, and they're amazing, and you can read more about them in the About. If you scroll down, you can go to About Us, and it's really cool because these are them. It's Shida Lee and Erika Shu. Sorry if I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Erika, but she's super cool. I've talked to her. She's amazing. And yeah, Shida's amazing. Mostly Erika is in charge of organizing most of the things when it comes to talking to the community and making sure that everything is right. She does the front end and the UI, and Shida is more about the backend developer. He makes sure that things just work and fixes all the bugs and stuff. So yeah, they're a really cool team, really approachable people that are very kind with their time, and they're very involved in the community. So I really, really love that. Now finally, when it comes to pricing, there's this commercial tier. It says 14-day free trial, and a commercial, it allows for commercial use. So if we click on buy now, you can see that if you have an account, for instance, I already have the catalyst to support the team and to get early year updates. And here's the commercial license where they talk a bit more about it, how it works. And here you can read more about it. But for business related use, a commercial license is required. Now, Obsidian is not, as a company, they're not super clear about who is this for. It's mostly the way I interpret it and the way I've read about it is that it's based for, it's mostly based for people who, as a company, work with Obsidian, right? If they collaborate a lot, this is kind of like the license. And it's not that bad, to be honest. If you have a big team and $50 per year is like $4 a month, and per user, of course, depending on how big your company is, that might be cheap, that might be not so cheap, but it's also a way to support Obsidian's growth. So yeah, I would highly encourage it. Now, if you're wondering if you need to get this license as a maybe entrepreneur or freelancer, if you're independent and even if you're working on your business, I've seen the developers talk in the forum that if you're independent, working by yourself, you don't need the license necessarily. Of course, they appreciate it. But yeah, that's kind of important because I was a bit hesitant if I needed the license or not. Currently, I don't have it. But if I were to collaborate with more people in Obsidian, which could be a possibility in the future, then I would definitely get that license. So yeah, that's basically how that works for Obsidian. Now, when it comes to Notion, there's a landing page, and if we go to pricing, it's kind of interesting because they've changed lately a little bit, and I think it's a good change they made. The personal, it's free. right? And in the past, the personal had a limit of like, I think 1,000 nodes or even less, not really sure. But now there's no limit. It's really great because now for individuals, you have unlimited pages slash blocks, as they call it. And you can share with 5 guests and you can sync across devices because it's web-based. And this will be coming soon, which is the integration that Notion will have with other services. The integration is another important point that I kind of touched a little bit, but integration really allows you to say you have a newsletter, right? And you want to take all your clients or all your subscribers to your newsletters and you want to create like a database in Notion where you organize all of them. Maybe you write notes on each one and you do a CRM, right? Customer Relationship Manager. And yeah, so it's really, really good, the integration that Notion will offer with the API that is going to be coming soon. There's going to be definitely the capability to integrate it, especially if you've used in the past software such as Zapier, which allows you to create these types of integrations with a newsletter that you might have in MailChimp, that kind of stuff. So really good stuff. The API will be coming and it's going to be amazing. Now, this is a plan that I currently use. It allows everything in here, but you have unlimited file uploads, which is kind of useful. And you have unlimited guests, which is really the reason why I have it, and version history, which could be useful. But being able to collaborate with others, even if they're as guests, as the personal pro offers, it's really, really good. So that way you can, maybe you have like a partner. I have with my girlfriend, like a nice Notion table where we handle our finances and we split things, like we go to a restaurant and we split the bill, that kind of stuff, So yeah, it's really useful. Or I am collaborating with a couple of people, creating websites for them. So I have like a nice Notion table where we have a to-do list and we have like all the material, all the content that is going to go in the website, as well as images. And because I have the unlimited file upload, everyone can just upload things to the Notion and table, and it's going to be, a lot more useful to access them. Finally, well, there's 2 more, but there's a team, which allows people to have the exact same privileges, but as team members instead of guests. Now, to be honest, I haven't found any bad limitations about guests. So if you're considering this, the $4 a month is really, really good. So yeah, not bad at all. That's what I've used. And the limitations of guests are really not that bad. But of course, if you are a company, an organization, and you have a lot of team members, then the team plan might be what you need. So finally, we got the enterprise, which is, more advanced things if you're a big company or you work in a big company and you want to adopt Notion. Finally, there's a really cool tip in the personal pro. If you are a student and you have, or a teacher even of a university and you got a .edu email, then you could qualify for having a free personal plan. And yeah, that's amazing. I've done it and it works. I'm pretty sure there's a limit to that, but either way, like the $4 a month, the thing is worth it for Notion, especially if you collaborate a lot or you want to have a very flexible task management system, right? Nice. So we covered a lot. And if we, if I were to, before I just explain what is my use of each, if I were to just really say what is the thing I love most about each one, they both have really cool communities. I think Notion is a bit more mainstream in general. Like there's a lot of famous YouTubers and stuff using Notion and, just being evangelic about how Notion is the ultimate solution for everything. I don't think that's the case, but Notion is pretty cool. I mean, I must admit it, and it makes you a cool kid, which is quite nice. Obsidian is more for slightly more hipster people that want to take a lot of notes, and they're kind of nerds like me about organizing everything and organizing all of your thoughts and ideas, and for creative people or entrepreneurs. So yeah, I mean, Obsidian is a bit more hipster, but it's gonna definitely emerge and be more popular with time. So that is really cool. And yeah, but the thing I love most about Obsidian is the community. The community is amazing. There's a forum that you can let me just show you real quick. If you go to the main page, obsidian.md, you can go to community. And here you can create an account. You can see what are the latest announcements of the latest features. You can see all types of discussions about all types of things, and it's really cool. And if we go to, for instance, a post that I did, which are nested vaults, which got quite a bit of, interesting discussion. Here you can just publish, like share your ideas, share questions and ask questions. And people are really nice about everything. Like it's such a friendly community. It's really amazing. And then this is like the badge that I was telling you about, that members can have if they're insiders, and it's quite nice. I used to have my insider badge, but now it's been changed for the 2020 Best of Obsidian winner. Not to flex or anything, but I did win the coolest graph, second place to the coolest graph of 2020. And the best story, I just wrote a little story about my beginning with Obsidian, which was really cool. So yeah, the forum is just amazing, and I really love that idea. Now, before we go to the final point, which is like, what is my use case of each? I think something really important is the way that both Notion and Obsidian work when it comes to the structure of things. So if we were to see how things work in Obsidian, everything is just a massive graph of information. Everything is just a connection. If you use the links and all the abilities to connect things, this is what Obsidian really looks like, opposed to Notion, more hierarchy-based system, meaning that in Notion is more about like you have this thing here, and you have like a folder kind of thing, and then you got all the files inside of it, and then you have files inside of it. Of course, Notion has the ability that because tables are so flexible, things are also similar to like the interactive way Obsidian works, but Obsidian is all about flexibility and wiki-like power. Like Wikipedia works with this idea that you link from here to here, and then it creates this whole nodes, as it's called, of interconnected ideas, and it's really powerful. So yeah, that is just me nerding out a little bit, whereas Notion doesn't have something as amazing as this graph view. Is not really based on this type of links, even though it does have some other ways to links and create connections, but Obsidian is really powerful for this. All right, so to bring a conclusion to this really fun video, we're gonna talk about the final point, which is my use of each, right? So Notion, as you might have gathered from what I said, is my task management system and for collaboration. So that's really what I use it for. Notion is amazing for organizing your to-dos, and is great for sharing things with others and just collaborating in general. So that's amazing. And then Obsidian is my tool for creative writing, quick organization of ideas, a website content generator. I actually manage a system because I'm into web development and programming stuff. Like I managed to make a really cool system where I create my website, which you can check in the description, from Obsidian. It's definitely an advanced thing that is gonna take time to learn. I use something called Gatsby, which is a static website generator. If you're familiar with that, you can create a symlink between Obsidian and your Gatsby website in order to arrange that. Kind of complicated. If you didn't get that, don't worry. I could definitely cover it in another video if you're interested. But yeah, it's just a really cool way to create a website from plain text files, in my case, Markdown, right? But that is what I use it for. And finally, drafting video scripts and ideas. Like you can see in here, like this was my whole structure for this video, and I did it all in Obsidian. So yeah, that's about it. We covered a lot, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Now, finally, if you're interested in learning Obsidian, here is the resource I recommend because I made it. And this is the course that I created for Obsidian. It's called the Obsidian Power User online course. And yeah, right now I've been covering quite a lot of the basics, the fundamentals. There's a testimonial of Will, a really good friend that took the course, and he shares why it's a good idea to take this course. You can see more about, like Obsidian's functionality. Here you can see getting started with Obsidian, the very basics of setting up Obsidian if you're new to Obsidian. And then there's a bit more advanced features that you can really make use of. And there's a lot more coming soon. So right now, if you get this course, there's going to be a really cool kind of like a discount situation. This is only applicable for if you're watching this right now, because by the time you watch this, if it's in the future, it might change. But right now, if you get this, there's a heavy discount, and you're gonna get updates for the next things that I'm gonna be releasing on Obsidian. So yeah, hope you're excited for that, because I am. And yeah, if you took all this time to watch this video, I really appreciate it. Leave me your questions or thoughts in the description. If you got any video requests, not in the description, in the comments. Why would you write in my description? So leave your questions in the comments or any video requests that you might have, and check out the playlist that I have in the description of all my Obsidian YouTube videos that I made so far, and check out the course if you want to learn more. But yeah, with that said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon. Bye.